If time travel were real, we can't even imagine the things human beings could be capable of. From changing history to saving countless lives, we could alter the course of our entire existence. But what if it is real and we just don't know it yet? Join us as we discuss 15 photos that can prove time travel exists. Number 15. The 1940s Hipster. First up, we have the 1940s hipster who was spotted in a picture captured at an event in 1941. Upon first glance, the picture looks quite normal. It's black and white and shows a bunch of people standing in a queue at the Bralorne Pioneer Museum waiting to reopen the South Fork Bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia. Most people are wearing hats, coats, and attire that fit the 1940s, but this is where things get interesting. Amongst these people, you can see a young man in his 30s wearing what appears to be a hoodie, a t-shirt that has some graphics printed on it, and sunglasses. But that's not all. In his hands, you can see that he's holding a camera. Cameras were available in the 1940s, but they looked nothing like the camera that this man is holding. And from the looks of it, this type of camera came around in the 1990s, almost 5 decades into the future. So, with all of this evidence, only one conclusion could be made. This man was from the future, maybe even from the 1990s, and had gone back in time for unknown reasons, proving that time travel exists. Number 14. The immortal Vladimir Putin. We've all seen movies where people travel back in time to different eras, and Vladimir Putin seems to be no different. In these 3 pictures captured at different points in time across decades, Vladimir Putin was caught dressed as a Russian soldier. But the time gap between all 3 images begs the question, is Vladimir Putin a time traveler? Is he a magical, ageless being who has, time and again, defended his native Russia throughout the ages? Or are these pictures coincidentally showing 3 men who just all seem to look alike? According to a certain website, the first picture is from the 1920s, the second from 1941, and the third from 2015. The difference between 2015 and 1920 is that of 95 years, yet the man in 2015 looks strikingly young for his age. Putin's followers have even embarked on a mission claiming that their leader is immortal and has been on the planet for thousands of years. Whatever the case, the mystery remains as to whether Putin is a time traveler or has too many doppelgangers. Number 13. The modern-day Greek woman. Archaeologists around the world have discovered artifacts belonging to the past centuries ago. Amongst these artifacts, they've found statues that have been sculpted in stone. One of these is the ancient Greek woman who looks like she's actually using a laptop. The statue is named Grave Nescos of an enthroned woman with an attendant, and it's stored in the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California. The gallery's own description of the object is much more modest and describes it as a shallow chest. As the woman sits on the throne, her attendant stands beside her, holding what appears to be a laptop, complete with USB ports. Of course, the Greek woman is ancient, living when no smart gadget had been developed, especially not a laptop. And this brings us to the question, how did she find such a laptop, and did it perhaps come into her possession through time travel? Number 12. The self-proclaimed time traveler. In March of 2003, the FBI arrested 44-year-old Andrew Carlson. This man had been fortunate because he had profited from the stock market like no other. Within 2 weeks, the man had transformed the $800 he invested into $350 million. Suspicious that Andrew was an inside trader or a scammer, the FBI interrogated him, and he said that he had actually traveled back in time from the year 2556 and had known exactly how the stocks would perform. All of the newspapers went crazy with reports of the man from the future, but the best was still yet to come. After much investigation, the FBI found that there was actually no record of Andrew's existence before the year 2002. On April 3rd, Andrew was bound to appear in court for the case, but he never showed up. In fact, after that day, he was never found again. Someday, he traveled back to the year that he was from, never to return. This is one of the best pieces of evidence that we may have for time travel. Number 11. The Philadelphia Experiment. The Philadelphia Experiment was one of the most grotesque military urban legends to have ever existed and became part of many conspiracy theories, one of which was, is time travel real? In 1943, a Cannon-class destroyer escort was conducting a top-secret experiment designed to win command of the oceans against the Axis powers. The goal was to create technology that would render naval ships invisible to their enemies' raiders. The experiment was supposed to be tested out in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, but still, when the investigation would be finally concluded, witnesses claimed that an airy green-blue glow came out of the ship's hull as soon as the generators were spun. But what came next terrified everyone. The ship suddenly disappeared. According to eyewitnesses, when the ship disappeared, it was seen in Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia for a few seconds before finally reappearing in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Bystanders today still ask themselves, was it the classic case of time travel, or perhaps simply an illusion? Number 10. The Swiss Ring. Excavations have revealed one too many mysteries for mankind to resolve, and the next mystery is another one that begs the question, does time travel really exist? In 2008, several news outlets would report that an archaeological team had discovered a mud-encrusted, modern-looking Swiss ring watch from a sealed tomb nearly 400 years old. The tomb dates back to the Ming Dynasty in China, and the strange thing happened when the team cleared soil off of one of the coffins before opening it. A piece of rock dropped to the ground and made a metallic sound upon impact. After further examination, they found that it was actually a watch the size of a ring, approximately 2 millimeters thick. The time hands on the clock had frozen at 10:06. The word Swiss, or Switzerland in English, was engraved at the back of the Swiss ring, but here's the mystery. Switzerland was founded in 1848, whereas the tomb existed between 1368 and 1644. So how can the origins of this ring be explained? Except, of course, by time travel, perhaps? Number 9. The 1917 time-traveling surfer. The next photo would be captured over 100 years ago in Canada and shows a group of people sitting on the edge of a rock. But the picture stands out for one very peculiar reason. A man sitting in the center seems to be straight out of the 20th century. Judging from his clothing, which doesn't match those of others around him, the man is speculated to have been from the future. The photo would first be discovered in Lester Ray Peterson's 1974 book, The Great Cape Scott Story, a tale of the Canadian region's history. Most have now begun to call this man the Surfer Man, who appears to be wearing a baggy t-shirt and shorts and has a modern windswept haircut, painting all around different scenes in itself. Even the man to his left seems utterly stunned by his appearance in the picture, and whether or not the Surfer Man had better style than the rest, or perhaps he was a time traveler, that's still a mystery even to this day. Number 8. The Legend of Victor Goddard. Victor Goddard was a member of the Royal Air Force who served England in the World Wars. When he was commanding a squadron during World War I, an air mechanic known as Freddie Jackson walked into a rotating propeller and died from his injuries. But what happened on the day of his funeral would shock everyone. The crew huddled together to take a picture, but when it was looked upon later, Victor Goddard noticed a suspicious man in the top row, and that was Freddie Jackson. This was the first shocking event that Goddard witnessed. A few years later, he was sent to check out an abandoned Scottish airfield in the village of Drem, and when he reached it, he saw that it was in complete ruins. Later on, when he was on his way back to the plane, he was interrupted by heavy rain and decided to go back to Drem and wait it out. But when he approached the airfield, the rains had stopped and given way to bright sunshine. The same airfield was now wholly repaired and in use to Goddard's shock. His aircraft was also painted yellow, and when he reached back, he told everyone that he had had a vision, but no one believed him. Almost 4 years later, in 1939, the Drem was repaired and put back into action, and all of the RAF planes were painted a bright yellow. So, was it a vision, or did Goddard actually time travel into the future? Number 7. The LHC. The LHC, or Large Hadron Collider, is the world's most powerful particle accelerator made of a 27-kilometer ring of superconducting magnet and is one of the most complex pieces of machinery that's ever been known to humans. It is 500 feet underground and has the world's most powerful atom smasher. Just from the looks of it, this marvelous piece of technology is beyond any comprehension. And do you want to know the best thing about it? Scientists claim that it can create a black hole and may even allow us to travel in time. But how? One of the major goals of this collider is to find the elusive Higgs boson. This is the God particle that physicists believe gives other particles their mass, and experts say that if the collider succeeds in producing the Higgs boson, it will create a second particle called the Higgs singlet. It's believed that these singlets can jump into the fifth dimension, where they will move forward or backwards in time and reappear in the future or the past, thus allowing time travel to occur. Some people believe the phenomenon has already happened, and people are just being kept oblivious. Number 6. Is Greta Thunberg a time traveler? Greta Thunberg has been in the mainstream media for over a year now, and she's one of the most famous climate activists of our time. Or so we thought. Some people claim to have found photographic evidence that would suggest that Greta Thunberg is, in fact, from the future, which would explain her extraordinary enthusiasm when it comes to protecting the environment. Maybe she saw the world destroying itself and came back to warn us, but whatever the case, the girl in the photographs does look a whole lot like Greta. The pictures are black and white, showcasing a girl with the same hair as Greta and the same face. And after everything that Greta's been through and created, I wouldn't be surprised if she were a magical being from the future. It would be pretty fitting, actually. Number 5. Time travel during the Cold War. The next photo reveals something incredibly suspicious that happened during the Cold War. Andrew Basiago, the U.S. lawyer, has been trying to solve the mystery surrounding the Pegasus project for some amount of years now. This was a top-secret project by the United States, which intended to manipulate the space-time continuum so that they could win the war against Russia. To make matters even more strange, Basiago claims that he was sent back in time to attend Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address in 1863. His father also worked on the project until it was discontinued in 1968, and reportedly, United States scientists tried to use Einstein's theory of relativity and wormholes to create time jumps. But wait, it does get even better. A photo resurfaced on the internet taken during the Gettysburg Address in 1863, and in the photo, the boy standing in the center, looking to his right, is a man named Basiago, our lawyer who traveled back in time from the 1970s. It may sound strange now, but which successful and well-known lawyer would jeopardize his career by claiming something false to be true? Whether this story is true or false, one thing is for sure, it is one heck of a story. Number 4. The mystery caught on television. We've all watched Charlie Chaplin's movies for a quick laugh at family gatherings. From working in a factory to running around in the circus, Charlie Chaplin sure knew how to make people lose their bearings. But every so often, television shows something that sends shivers down our spines, and one such scene in Charlie Chaplin caught everyone's attention, especially now in the future. In the photograph of the scene, you can see a horse that's painted to look like a zebra, and behind it, a woman seems to be on her way to attend some urgent business. But upon looking more closely, you can see that the woman is holding something that looks like a smartphone. This is shocking because there was no smartphones back when Charlie Chaplin's movies were being filmed. So could it be that the woman had traveled back in time and crossed the road when the scene was being shot because she wanted to be in it? The world is strange, and it wouldn't be completely impossible for something like this to happen. Number 3. John Titor, the Time Traveler. In late 2000, John Titor joined the forum at the Time Travel Institute, claiming that he was a soldier that had been sent from the year 2036, which would one day be the year that the computer virus would wipe out the whole world from existence. He said that his mission was to travel back to 1975, steal the IBM 5100 computer, and according to him, this computer would have all the vital information that was needed to fight the virus in the future. Over the next few months, he answered user queries about such things, all things in fact, which included future scenarios and realities. He also provided many technical specifications about how time travel worked, along with overly complex algorithms and photos of his actual time machine. And what better way to prove the existence of a time machine than by its very blueprints? Finally, in 2001, he signed off forever and then returned home and was never heard from again. People believe that he actually returned to his own timeline once he had gotten bored with ours, and today he's an internet sensation with a wide fan following, and his predictions and theories are still studied religiously. Now, I don't know about you, but I sure would have loved to meet this Titor person and have a chat with him. Number 2. The Man in the Painting. At number 2, we have this 1930s painting, which reveals more and more the longer that you look at it. Upon first glance, it's a medieval painting showing captors and their captives, and there seem to be Europeans and Indians both present in the picture. And while it may seem like a typical painting, there is one thing that is oddly strange about it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. At the center right, there's an Indian that's been painted holding a device that looks much like a smartphone. How he's holding it resembles the way that boomers of today hold their phones, and I just wonder what so strikingly caught this man's attention on that phone. Was it perhaps the stock market crash? Who can really say for sure? But a painting like this leaves one wondering how something painted in the 1930s could connect to a smartphone which was first invented in 1992 by IBM. All questions seem to lead to the same answer, which seems to have a lot to do with time traveling. Number 1. The Monkey Astronaut. Now, I've already talked about one sculpture, and the next one is similar, except it's a step further from a laptop. This next sculpture reveals a monkey dressed in a spacesuit. The astronaut monkey is not rare, since humans have sent monkeys to the moon way before beginning to send people. But after knowing the next part, you may have to overthink the entire thing. The church building showcases this monkey statue, which was built between the 15th and 17th centuries. How could a monkey be wearing a spacesuit when its sculptors had no idea that space existed beyond the scope of our world at the time? And there was no concept of space back then, which began only in the 1900s. The answer? Well, many believe that it could be time travel. Nothing else could even begin to explain it. Someone from the future must have traveled back to the past to enlighten the sculptors on what space exploration was and the monkey's future. We've witnessed many proofs of the existence of time travel, some of which are still undiscovered, but it may be any day now that we finally discover the truth about it all, as many people before us have known it.